Today, we've got the updated 2026 governor's prediction for the month of June. We'll try to take a look at this every month, and we're just really starting to get into primary season, so I didn't really make any changes since last month. I'm going to start by plugging in the obvious safe states. These should be over a 10% margin. And of course, it looks like it's going to be a blue-leaning environment. That's no secret. But the extent of it and the specifics, that might not be known until the very end. Plus, Trump has made some recent endorsements in some of these primaries that could boost some of those candidates. And there's also some fringe scenarios where a third party or independent candidate could make things much more complicated, usually in some of these red states. That's something we'll follow as time goes on. So still a lot of unknowns and a lot of borderline ratings. For example, in Minnesota, now that actually could be Kendall Qualls for the Republicans up against Amy Klobuchar. I still think it's more likely than not that Klobuchar gets it into double digits, but we'll see. One other thing to point out here is now Vermont goes from likely up to safe Republican. Phil Scott running for another term is basically invincible. But now that we got those states out of the way, let's go down to the likely states. These are between a 5 and a 10% margin. We'll start with the Dems. First is Oregon. This is a rematch between Tina Kotek and Christine Drazan. This environment, I don't really see how it's going to get much closer. Kotek, although she's not a super strong candidate, she's going to win it by almost 10%. In New Mexico, a weaker GOP bench here is going to be also high single digits for the Dems. In the northeast corner in Maine, it looks like Troy Jackson might have emerged as the front runner there for the Dems. Whoever it is going to be favored here. The rating is going to be likely. How about on the East Coast in Rhode Island? This one is borderline safe, but because incumbent Dan McKee is super unpopular, maybe there's a little bit of blowback that carries over into the general. Republicans don't have much going on here, and I think McKee is likely to be primaried out, but we'll still keep it at likely. Then in Pennsylvania, this one also could go safe. Josh Shapiro looks very strong here against Stacey Garrity. The polling, I think, will narrow up a little bit as we get closer, but Shapiro in a very strong position. Now for the Republicans, let's start with Alaska. This, I think, might be the most complicated state. There's just too many candidates, way too much going on. That's true for the Senate and for governor. So I think Dems actually could pick this up in theory, but I just want to give it more time. It's going to stay likely, but it's borderline leans. In Texas, Greg Abbott here looks favored, but he's not totally unbeatable, but he is going to be getting it by over 5. Then in the Northeast, it's New Hampshire. Kelly Ayotte is going to win another 2-year term by at least 5, but less than 10%. Then South Carolina. Here's another one where Trump has endorsed Pamela Yvette, so that makes her the strong favorite in November. She easily could get it over 10, but for right now, I'm going to just keep it at about 9.5% and go likely. Then in Florida, I'm going to assume it's Byron Donalds against David Jolly. Donalds should easily carry this state by at least 5%. Now let's go down to the competitive states. Lean are under 5%, Tilt are 1% or less. So we'll start in the West with Nevada. Nothing's changed here, assuming it's Lombardo against Ford. Lombardo, I think, has an edge, not by a ton. It could flip, but I think it's going to at least be 1 or 2, and it's going to stay red. Then we've got Arizona. This, I think Katie Hobbs is just clearly more likely to win over Andy Biggs. Not by a ton, but with divided government, I think that helps Hobbs out. She's going to keep it with a lean rating. Then in Kansas, Trump has endorsed Republican Ty Masterson in that primary. He's likely to be the nominee. In the general, the state is pretty likely to flip back toward the Republicans, but it's not a guarantee because they did just elect a Democrat twice here. So it's a red state, but sometimes states do different things for governor. So we got to see what develops here, but for now, it's going to be a flip and a pickup, and it's going to be lean Republican. In Iowa, this one could be competitive. Yeah, I've seen the polling that shows Rob Sand ahead. But if you only go by the polling 4, 5, 6 months out, then every map would look different. You'd have Larry Hogan being the next senator in Maryland. So Sand, a pretty decent candidate there, but is Randy Feenstra going to be the guy to hold it for the Republicans? We'll see. He's got his work cut out for him, but in the end, I think the partisan lean of the state is a little bit more likely than not to keep it with the Republicans. In Wisconsin, it's an open seat. Looks like Tom Tiffany has it locked down for the Republicans. The Dems, it's wide open. Could be former Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes. He's not the strongest candidate, but whoever it is going to be favored in this environment. They're going to get it with a lean rating. Michigan is going to be similar. Now that independent Mike Duggan has dropped out, Jocelyn Benson going to be favored here against either Perry Johnson or John James. In Ohio, I think Vivek Ramaswamy is a little bit more likely than not to defeat Amy Acton. The last state here is Georgia. This is a pure coin flip. Republicans still had that runoff between Burt Jones and Rick Jackson. Anything could happen, but right now it looks like it's going to be Burt Jones. He's going to face Keisha Lance Bottoms in the general, and this state absolutely could go blue. It almost did in 18, and since then, this state has not gotten any redder. Want to see what happens? I'm going to keep the rating the same. It's going to be tilt Republican, but again, there's a reasonable chance it could be a pickup for the Dems. So that's the map. We've got 23 seats for the Dems, 27 for the Republicans. After all this, the only flip and pickup on here is for the Republicans in Kansas. But Georgia is extremely close to flipping. Iowa is also right there in the conversation. Nevada is also a real possibility along with Ohio. I also wouldn't totally count out Alaska or Wisconsin or Michigan. There's a lot of different ways you could look at it. We'll see what happens over the next few months. But for right now, let me know in the comments. How does your map look for the month of June? Which states are you confident on? Which do you think could go either way? Let me know what you think down below on your way out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to help support the channel. Hit the bell for notifications. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.